Peter. Hello, everyone. This is Andy Pollock. I'm the president of the South Coast LGBTQ Network, and this is Reflections on Faith. And I'm welcoming Peter Crysdale, who is a Quaker from Allen's Neck Friends Meeting. I want to thank Peter for joining us. And Peter, tell us a little bit about Quakerism and the LGBTQ community.
Quakerism. Well, we don't believe in proselytizing. So, but Quakerism is a Christian tradition. It grew in the revolutionary time in England in the 1600s as a revolution against Calvinism. It didn't consider itself a denomination or a sect. It considered itself equal with the prophets and the apostles, living in the life and power. Quakers didn't put as much faith in doctrine as they put in experience. And faith was something you gained by your experience. And the experience was, well, somebody in Canada, a very bright woman, once described Quakerism on a national television show, which I was impressed with. She said, Quakers tune with God, with each other, and with the world. And in the silence, Quakers worship in an unusual way. We sit and wait and listen. Sometimes it's just like nothing on earth. Sometimes it's deep and profound. It's unpredictable. But in that sitting, nobody's set aside as a pastor or a minister. Everybody's considered a minister. The basic interesting truth, I think, is that Quakers see that of God in every person. And they mean every person. More conservative Quakers would add that of God in every person, no matter how deeply buried. But I think that's a lifting sense of looking at one another in a world where we've pretty much brutalized everything. Quakers have testimonies out of their experience. In 1660, they declared that they were pacifists, that they were opposed to violence and war. And many Quakers have refused to serve in the military. And Quakers have a strong testimony here and there against militarization of the culture in the world. We don't feel that weapons and military approach to problem solving is very beneficial. And I think in terms of the way the world is right now, looking at the climate change and looking at the various standoffs in the world, that one of the things that has to be devolved is the military. I mean, that we spend 54 cents out of every dollar that comes to our government on the military in a world that's desperately in need of all kinds of other services. Quakers have strong feelings and a strong sense of being led about militarism. In terms of politics, Quakers tend to be socially conservative and politically active and radical, but that's not of there's lots of different kinds of Quakers. And everything I say, some other Quaker could easily say, I don't think like that. And I would say, fine, brother. Yeah. Quakers are strong on a small community of friends. We call ourselves friends, and our little meeting here in Dartmouth, Massachusetts, I pride myself in the fact that we care for one another and we work on it. We're not a large group, but we are a kind group, I think. What more can I say?
And Allen's Neck has been a progression towards LGBT rights and standing up for LGBT folks. In fact, some of the Quakers and Allen's Neck have participated in Pride over the years. So we're really, can you tell us a little bit about that evolution?
Well, mostly your fault. You've come and got us talking about that. The subject sexuality is something that Christian churches don't talk much about, and you've really made us free to talk about those things. And I think that the meeting has been quite surprised itself by turning in the direction of gay rights. the meeting surprised itself because the conversation was ready to be had. And one of the surprising things in my life is the revolution, sexual revolution that's been going on in the last 20 or 30 years. It's just amazing to me. I grew up in a world that was very different. And I grew up in a world in which I was very suspicious of gayness. I had no idea about what it was. I learned about it in a private boys' school, and what I learned wasn't pleasant. And I became, I think, not a bigot in terms of gayness, but I was fearful of it and not very accepting of it. And gradually, as I became a Quaker, I worked with the American Friends Service Committee, where gay rights were really important, a really important issue. And I gradually grew out of my soft homophobia into a real support of gay folks. And I'm just amazed that that's happened in our lifetime. And it's been a radical shift. And that means we can do it in other areas. We can make those kinds of shifts. And I'm excited about that. So Andy, you're responsible for freeing our meeting from the kind of soft homophobia that most churches have. Some of them not so soft. And you can say more about it than I can, because you did it.
Well, thank you for the kind words. And there's other gay people that attend Alan's Neck. So one of the larger weddings that we had 2 years ago was Sarah and
that's right,
Kate's. So that was quite an event. And now a little bit about Alan's Neck. What can you, how are we meeting these days? How's the meeting going?
Well, the COVID has really been hard on us because we're a group of maybe 30 people who over the past year have had to meet on Zoom. And for lots of people, Zoom just doesn't work for worship and spiritual listening. For other people, it does. So we're back in the meeting house, about 12 or 13 of us sitting in the meeting house, still a few feet apart, even though the governor said we don't have to be like that far apart. And another group at home on Zoom. But we've got a lot of repairs to make in our worship, because sitting together in the quiet in an equal way is a very, very important part of our practice. And I think that the COVID has made it very difficult. But we have another group that meets every day on Zoom. They like Zoom, but Zoom is not easy. Yeah, here we are in Zoom.
So if people were interested, they could contact me and I could give them information on getting to the meeting and the Zoom meeting on every morning is between 7 and 9. Am I correct?
Yep, 7 and 9. You can come for a few minutes, or you can come for half an hour, or you can come for an hour. Yeah.
So if people want to experience Quaker worship in a brief and or not feel like they have to sit for an hour, they could come and jump in and out. Excellent. Right. Great.
I have a friend in California who was working in a school, and somebody else in the school said, Margaret, give me a book to read about what Quakers are about. And Margaret said to her, look, I'll do something better. I want you to come to a meeting for worship with me on Sunday. And that meeting was a meeting in which the silence was buoyant. And when you sat down, you really felt like something was happening. And our meeting is a bit like that. If you come and join us, don't be nervous about having to sit in the quiet for a while, because there's a sense of camaraderie and a sense of fellowship that is surprising and freshening, generally, not always. It's unpredictable, of course.
I agree. Now, Peter, we want to talk a little bit about Father's Day. And I know for some people that's a wonderful day, and for some people it is a hard day. Some people didn't have the best experience with their father, and a lot of times in the religious world, God is referred to as a father figure, so people have some issues around that as well. So I've heard you speak about this before, and I know you have some words of wisdom that you'd like to give us.
I've just been in that process in the last year or two of reuniting with my father, who's long gone, who left here, and we were alienated from each other for sure. There was a silence between us that was cold and painful. After his passing, I realized that we're very much alike, that we tend to deal with things we don't like by shutting down. And he dealt with me by shutting down and taught me to shut down. And it's not been a pleasant ride, that shutting down stuff. You know, when somebody loves you and they can say the words, but the feelings aren't there. The sense that the there isn't there. But my father, I realized, wanted not to be like that, but he was cast into that by his parents, and I was cast into that by him. I see my son doing way better than I. He doesn't shut down like that. He's not as judgmental as I am, but I'm learning to not be as judgmental as my father. And I feel like my father, long gone, is now my teacher. That we're on the same path. I don't know what it is. A rabbi's friend of mine once said, you know, when my grandfather died, you think your grandfather's gone, and my grandfather was quite difficult. You won't have to deal with him anymore. My 5 generations of rabbis say, you got to deal with them. And I said, give me a break. And then I realized that, in fact, we have to deal with the experience that we've been given and work our way through them. And not always by understanding them totally, but by letting them go. Letting things go is a really important thing to learn how to do. It's part of the process of forgiveness. And we unload ourselves. We carry around a lot of junk, you know. I carry around a lot of junk. I don't know about you, Andy, but yeah. And yeah. But I think Father's Day is one of those things. I think that we had People Day, it would be fine. You know. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you.
I think that in terms of the name for God, way back in the 1300s, there was a woman who was the first writer in the English language who called Jesus Mother and called God Mother. And I think we find names for God that get to the deepest corner of us. When Jesus supposedly said the Our Father prayer, the word Father in that prayer in Aramaic isn't the father, cold shoulder, big deal guy. That the father was Dada, the first presence that you realize and awake to as a child. Dada, that the first love. And I think that whatever word you have for the first love, it's important to say it often to yourself and to others.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Now, Peter, do you have anything that you'd like to say to folks for Pride Month? We have a lot going on this month, and we don't want to forget the spirituality, but what would you like to say for folks to celebrate Pride in June of 2021?
We're celebrating a huge shift in the Western world, which amazes me. It's totally it was a wonder that shift happened, and we're celebrating. And Jewish tradition is about celebrating. And the gay community obviously knows how to celebrate. Quakers don't do a lot of celebrating. We need to learn how to do that. We're a little sullen and quiet, but I'm for celebration. And celebration is a wonderful thing. We're freeing people from sexual oppression. It's just a wonderful thing to celebrate. Because no matter where we came from, most of us at my age have grown up with some kind of sexual oppression. The silence was killing. God.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was, in many ways. So we're really thankful that you could be with us today, and wish you happy Pride.
And thank you for having me. There you
All
are,
right.
my friend. Take care.